And those charges included, if I'm not mistaken, an arrest in 1994 while he was a juvenile for possession of cannabis. Does that sound right? Yes?
Yes, sir.
And a juvenile charge in 1996 for strong arm robbery. Okay. And while he was a charge in 1997 for an open house party, correct?
Yes, sir.
And a 1999 charge for fleeing and attempting to elude. Yes, sir. And for disorderly conduct in 1999. Yes?
Yes.
And a DUI in 2000. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you understood that all those charges have been dismissed, correct? Okay. Now, well, let me ask you this one. If any of those charges had been resulted in a guilty finding, would that have prohibited Mr. Flesh from being employed?
Not necessarily.
Okay. All right. Now, when Mr. Flesh began working for the Sheriff's Department, he was subject to the same one-year probationary period that every other deputy sheriff has, correct?
Yes, sir.
And despite the fact that he had this history that Mr. Jolly referred to as checkered, I believe, he wasn't subject to any special conditions, was he?
No, he was not.
Not a longer probationary period?
No, he was not.
Not a super secret probation? Okay. So just the same standard one-year probationary period that other deputies have. Okay. Now I want to flash forward in time, if we can, to December 6, 2010.
Yes, sir.
Fortunately, I don't have another copy, so may I look on yours? Are you familiar with this document, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is the document by which, on December 6, 2010, Deputy Flesh was advised that he was on unpaid leave of absence, suspension without pay for an undefined period of time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Deputy Flesh remained on suspension until the date he was terminated. Suspension without pay, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Now, let me have this marked as number 10, please. Sir, do you recognize this document? Of course, I'll give you a chance to take a look. Okay, good. Now, this was the letter that Mr. Flesh was provided pursuant to the merit system rules, requiring that he be given 3 days advance notice of the intent to terminate his employment.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. And this document is signed by you, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, and this letter is scheduled a February 17th meeting to discuss whether or not you should move forward with your intent to terminate Mr. Flesh. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to set this one aside because we're going to come back to it. Now, you were present at the February 17th, 2011 meeting, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we already discussed some of the other people there, including Jeff Candage. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, at the meeting, in fact, near the very beginning of the meeting, Deputy Flesh brought up the fact that he had been identified as a person with substance abuse problems and post-traumatic stress disorder, didn't he?
I don't recall, but I believe so.
Okay. Well, he definitely remember him saying that he was having trouble with PTSD.
Yes,
And you remember him telling you that he was in treatment for it.
I believe so.
Okay. And you remember him telling you that he was in treatment at the VA hospital for it.
I don't recall if he said VA hospital.
Okay. Now, in fact, didn't he tell you that he went to the VA to get treatment the day after his arrest?
I don't recall. He may have. I don't recall. I thought I was going to take the meeting, and I don't recall the whole meeting.
We'll do that
Off the
in a
top
few
of my head,
minutes.
I'll give it to you. If,
Okay. Now, you knew at the time that Mr. Flesh came before you at that meeting, that Mr. Flesh was a Marine Corps veteran, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that he was a veteran of the second invasion of Iraq and his occupation there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You remember Mr. Flesh telling you that he was in treatment, that he intended to continue to do so?
I believe so. Once again, I have to listen to that tape, and I have not listened to it since February 17th, or, since we had the meeting. So I don't recall the total conversation. I just have to take it your word on it.
Okay. Well, like I said, we'll play the tape. Unfortunately, it's 20 minutes long, but we'll talk through it.
I'll take your word on it.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Flesh brought up PTSD, would it be fair to say you weren't impressed with that?
No, sir.
What, I'm correct, you weren't impressed with that?
I was not impressed with that.
Okay. And did you ask any questions at all about his PTSD, about what he meant by PTSD?
No, I told him that obviously he had gotten that straight out of high school because of all of his problems he had had throughout the years. This wasn't something new. He saw it on then, but from his background, he had had problems from high school years on, a similar type of behavior, and that's the first time he had ever brought it to our attention.
Okay, sir. Well, let's talk about that for a second. We discussed his history of arrest in the 1990s, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do we both agree that his last arrest prior to the one in 2010 was in the year 2000?
That's right.
Okay. So there was a decade in between instances of arrest, correct?
There was also Marine Corps issues between those two issues right there.
What were
Where he had shown in his Marine Corps had been in some problems while he was in the Marine Corps.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Behavior.
Let's talk about this. Now, the Marine Corps, first, can we agree that there were the arrests, the civilian arrests, dropped off for a decade in between 2000 and 2010?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk about the Marine Corps stuff. During that hearing on February 17, 2011, Mr. Flesh told you that he had gotten into an argument with a superior officer and was busted down from corporal to lance corporal because of that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he explained to you during that same hearing that the reason he got in the argument because the superior officer, in Scott's opinion, had gotten a lot of his friends killed by making poor decisions. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And didn't he also explain that he felt that that officer was too green to be in the field and was straight out of OCS and didn't know what he was doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that he expressed frustration that friends had died over that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, would you be frustrated in a situation like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Might you lose your cool when speaking to a superior in that situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what other Marine Corps incident are you talking about, sir? Just so the record's clear, Ms. Jolly has handed the sheriff rather voluminous.
So let's see, he had an unauthorized absence, served 14 extra duty days. March 2000, he was out of bounds, required to have 14 extra duty days. In May 2002, involved with a fight with several other servicemen, was taken to MP station, served 30 extra duty days. May 2003, that was the one about he was, I guess with his corporal, verbal altercation where disrespectful words were exchanged This was towards the end of the Iraq War. That's the one I believe you're referring to.
And just so the record's clear, you're reading off Mr. Flesh's application for employment with this agency, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next page of the disability.
The others were before, but of course, Palatka Police Department, September 5th, 1997, open house party. Fort Orange Police Department, September 11th, 1999, clean, eluding, resisting without violence. Daytona Beach Police Department, November 26th, 1999, disorderly conduct. Huntington Beach Police Department, September 30th, 2000, DUI. Fort Orange Police Department, May 5th, 1994, possession of cannabis. July 20th, 1996, principal of robbery.
Since you're reading from it, why don't we go ahead and make an exhibit? So can I go ahead and ask questions, or are you still?